Good morning. Today must be what is today? The 15th day of May, 2019. So, I thought my world had crashed yesterday and a few days leading up to it. Computer problems I thought had brought about the end. And a lot of that I had worked on in my creative life, I thought was now lost. But more about that later. But the thing was, that thought went through an interesting pattern. It's like any tragedy or difficulty in life where we have those moments of denial and anger and acceptance. I went through a mini version of all of that, although to a much lesser degree than, in terms of simply importance. It's just computer stuff. It's not like a death in the family or anything. But what's important is important, right? To its various degrees, and to the mind, when it doesn't have anything else to be handling at that time, it can treat even seemingly minor, in a relative sense, stuff as quite significant. But more on that in just a minute. Let's do the good life. The good life meditation is something that I do each and every morning at dawn, usually on my way to work, to remind myself of my 7 objectives and 21 principles. And there's the big old bike. Let's load it up and then head out. Now, I'm adjusting the load a little bit. I'll be going to Siberia tomorrow, so I'm slowly adding. You guys can't quite see it. The camera angle isn't such, but I'm adding a few goodies to the saddlebag here, namely my box of premium crackers. Don't worry, I won't eat all of these in one adventure, but I like to keep a nice load up here. So let me just add these in here. The first objective is the objective to be always ready to die, so that I have my affairs in a settled state and I'm ready to meet my end, should that end come in this moment. And I like to define or categorize those affairs into 3 categories, so to speak. The first is the category of financial affairs. The second is the category of, there we go. Make sure everything's in here. Your relationships, my relations with others. I could use a little more coffee in there. That should be enough for a day, though. And the third is the category of my art. Because I think if you can cover your relationships and your where is this going to fit? Yep, it's going to fit. There we go. Crush it all in there. Yeah, good. We're going to stop and get gas, by the way, too. If we can cover our relationships and our finances and our artistic endeavors in life, get all those things in a good settled state and keep them in that way at all times, then I think that's a pretty good ambition. In fact, the challenge that I faced yesterday was a challenge to that very one. That's why this is useful to do this. It helps me to see how this stuff aligns. The second objective is the objective to make good and effective use of my time, not to waste my moments or fritter them away like I've got an infinite number of seconds. I'm only here for a while, and a short while at that, and probably shorter than I even want or expect. Everything stays intact. Let's go get some gas on the way. Next is 3, the development and maintenance of good and sound life principles. Good insofar as they seek good ends. Sound to the extent that I'm unzipping my jacket here to let some air in. It's a little warm. Sound insofar as they can survive the test of reason. If I apply my principle of war to these objectives and principles, that they will each and every one of them survive and sustain the test. Number 4 is the cultivation of good emotional reaction. Here I am, we're doing it right now. Try to just I wanted to make that green. I was trying to resist the urge to punch the gas. That is in keeping with my principle of one thing slowly. If it did turn yellow, then I would just pull, come to a nice smooth stop and stop. Likewise here, be ready to make a full stop at that red light. Turn green though, so I'm in good shape. Nice and smooth, Kurt. Take it nice and easy. Let's go get the gas. And I usually get a little anxious up here, like right now, turning red now. And see all these cars? I'm always worried, all these cars are all going to get to the gas station before me, even though most of them are not on their way to the gas station. They're going to get there first, and it's going to be crowded, and there's going to be a line, and I'm going to be made late. I'm going to have to ride faster than I want. And see how all that stuff just kind of gets out of hand. So anyway, I'll just sit here calmly, and big deal if they get to the gas station before me. It's usually not that crowded anyway. And big deal if I have to ride a little faster. I'm still well within the budget of time. See, this guy, you're not going to get there first. I'm not going to let you get ahead of me. No, cool it, Kurt. One thing slowly. And it's a greater victory to win over my own impatience rather than to beat that guy to the gas pump. Make sure I'm checking over my shoulders. Here we go again. Make sure I can turn. Look at that guy. Wow, look at the way that, you see, as he goes, and him too, they're making others upset because we're watching him drive in such a reckless fashion, and we're thinking, that guy, you're making all of us, endangering all of us. How what a jerk. We consume that waste, that poor living that he's doing. We consume it, and it becomes part of the incremental upset throughout the day that makes our day a crappy one. Okay, let me pull over here. I'm kind of a creature of habit. I usually choose this pump. And interestingly, it's almost always free, which I guess is a good thing. So I'll stop the engine and then adjust the miles down to 0. On my old bike, I could get 250 to 280. I remember there was once I almost made it to 300 miles on a single tank full. See my new tank bag? You can simply zip this, and it lifts up. And it's very easy. Pop this open, and let's go get the gas going. So number 3 is the development and maintenance of good and sound life principles. Sound to the extent, like I said, that they can survive the test of reason. I'm not done. I gotta put in the card now. Number 4 is the cultivation of good emotional reactions, just like I was trying to do just now with that guy. React well to his reckless driving. Not that I want to just accept it, but there's only so much I can do. If I was able to catch up and catch his eye, maybe give him the frown of disapproval. Number 5, the performance of good actions. Simply doing good things throughout the day. I don't think that requires much elaboration. I think we all know what constitute good things. We know the little things that we can do to make the world a better place. Next is the recognition of true limits and true opportunity. What is it that I really do have it within my power to control? And what is it that's or act upon? And what is it that I do not have such power? And then live my life accordingly. And then the last objective, it's amazing how this is coming so easy to me. In the past, every time I added a new objective or principle, it took weeks for it to become part and parcel of my meditation. And that was a long time ago. That was like more than a year ago, maybe 2 years ago that I added something. Let me just go ahead and plug in a few things here before we get going. The last one is the principle of one thing slow, or the objective. Well, like I said, of one thing slowly. There we go. Put my gloves on. Just doing one thing slowly, like I said before. Shoes are tied. Good. Bang, bang. Ready to go. Okay, now we get on to the 21 principles. The first of those is the principle of war. To rise each day ready to go to war with everything that I hold true, namely my objectives and principles. Now I can get into my stride. Now that the bike is gassed up, I'm going to go make a full stop at the stop sign. Nice leisurely ride. Let's begin. I'm going to try to talk smoothly, talk in even, measured tone. Not let my emotions or my thoughts get the best of me. And if I can do this for half an hour, that sets the tone for the day. War. Why would I want to live with something that's not true? Why would I want to believe something that doesn't have a solid foundation on reality? Just because it makes me feel good? Because it's comforting? Here we go again. Stay in this lane, Kurt. I don't need to be in that lane. I could get an easy win and get around these two cars if I go in that lane over there. But I don't need to be in that lane. This is the lane I need to be in because I need to make a right turn after two lights, at the second light after this. Just getting in front of those guys, gets me the anxiety. It causes them the upset of, look at that guy, just wants to get around us, maybe. And it gives me the anxiety of thinking like I'm a cheat. So just stay back here. There we go. Number 2, the principle of reason. Reason has 2 sub-principles, honesty and objectivity. Reason is the tool, again, that I use to facilitate the discernment of truth. What the hell does that mean? To determine what is true and what may not be true. Reason and honesty, being objective. Number 3, the homunculus, the little mortal who lives inside my head, who runs the show, my consciousness, and who will die with me when I die. Some seconds after my heart stops beating, the homunculus will wink out forever, and I will never again know anything. At least that's what the case appears to be. No good reason to think otherwise. Never again know anything. Never again be anything. Just gone forever. The homunculus is the keeper of my ideas about good and evil, right and wrong. That's principle number 4. Or the principle of good and evil. I got out of my script. I couldn't say it right. Number 4, the home of good and evil. That's how I say it. My concepts of good and evil reside with the homunculus, who makes assessments about the world and decides what is good and what is bad. And these assessments are subjective, but they become objective when you and I agree on an end, and we agree about particular moves in life that can lead to those good ends. For example, if I agree independently that educating children at least through the 12th grade is a good thing to do, which is a subjective decision on my part. There's not like it's written up in the sky, thou shalt get a 12th grade education at that minimum. No, it's my own opinion. And if you have the same opinion, and you and I agree, for example, that taxing citizens at a particular rate to fund schools is a good thing to do to achieve that end, to help ensure that students get that education, then hey, you and I have just to come up with an objective thing to do that helps us meet what to each of us is a subjective good end. 12th grade education for all children. And that's managed. These things are managed by the homunculus, by our consciousness. Next is the principle of purpose. The universe doesn't seem to have any mandate for us other than the demand that we somehow survive and make more of ourselves, get our genes into the next generation. All life seems to have that mandate as part of our construct, which makes sense because any life that didn't have that drive wouldn't be here anymore. There's nothing magical or mystical about that. So, but that's the only one I can find so far. There seems to be a requirement from nature. So I've decided to make my own purposes, which are purpose, which is the purpose of the pursuit of good, the pursuit of virtue, the working to make the world a better place, safer, cleaner, better communication, better justice, all these types of things that make life better, not just for us, but for the species who share our world and who make up the ecosystem in which we all must live. So it's a worthy goal, a worthy end. It's a big goal. And that's my goal besides having my child, which she's 18 now and almost done with that job, so to speak. It'll always be a part of my job. A very worthy and a good job, too, that I like. Next is the principle of the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, flowing and changing and forever transforming. And you and me both. You and I are just, atoms and molecules. Very soon we'll die and dissolve away, decompose, be burned up. Even if we try to keep us our corpse, good-looking corpse with some chemicals in us for a while, even that won't last. Eventually it will just be a blob of plastic for a while, or whatever it is that the embalming chemicals are. Eventually that'll all go too. It'll all be gone. Can't. There's no way to protect ourselves from dissolution. So it's good to remember that. If only to help us stay on track with our current best living. Hi, duck. Another duck? Yeah, there's usually two of you. That'll get onto the social principle in just a moment. Those two ducks together. We'll circle back at that time. The next is the principle of nature. Everything in the universe has some particular nature. And all I'm asking myself with this one is to try to identify what the nature of a thing or a person or anything is, and then live with an acceptance of that nature, or maybe not an acceptance, at least a recognition. It may be the nature of a boss to be cruel and vindictive. I don't have to like that, but if I recognize that that's the nature of my boss, then I'm coming to work with head of the game, rather than being surprised every day when I discover that again and again and again and be so upset. Rather not just recognize that's the case, that my boss is a jerk, and either do something about it, find another job, or accept it and live with it. Likewise, all kinds of stuff, including you and me. What's our natures? What are our natures? I use this all the time because in my job I'm very social. lots of meetings, and I use the principle of nature to help me recognize the nature of all the team members and of each of the circumstances in our groups when we come together. Next is the principle of maturity, and there are two sub-principles: wisdom and fortitude. Wisdom is learning from both our mistakes and our successes, and fortitude is our ability to persevere towards applying what we've learned in future circumstance. And if we can be both wise and not fortuitous, if we can be wise and persevere, what is the word when you're actively displaying fortitude? When we're wise and we're living with fortitude, then we can indeed be mature. That's not coming out right. When we can remember and learn, when we can remember, learn, and when we can remember and learn from our mistakes and come up with better ideas in the future, and then we'll be willing to apply our lives in such a way as to not repeat those mistakes, or to indeed repeat the successes, then we are mature. There, I like that a little better. Still a little wordy. Next is the principle of the social principle, coming back to those ducks. Why is it you almost always see not one duck but two ducks? Maybe there are a couple. Social principle simply states that we are social creatures, we human beings. We need one another. And it really is our best ends are really social ends when we seek after social welfare. I'm not talking about state welfare. I'm talking that too, though. I'm talking about looking after one another and allowing others to keep an eye on us and to be there for us when we need them, and to fraternize and spend time with and be social to help us stay grounded. For one, I'm the type of person that could have easily drifted away into social irrelevance had I not chosen at an early age to ground myself in marriage and family. So now I still have that. I wander off alone. That's the whole going alone thing. But at the same time, I have a solid footing back here in the so-called real world. Next is the principle of the Feast of Offal. The Feast of Offal is all the waste and byproducts of our untempered and undisciplined living. And we're living in such a way that we're not careful, we don't build objectives, and we don't have principles, and we don't mind our minds and work to control our living. And we're likely to get upset. Yeah, the world is going to let us down, and we frustrated, we wave our hands around, and we shout and raise our voice and express our upset to the world. And guess what? Others they don't just observe that, they take that in, and they kind of consume it, and it contributes to their own upset and their own lack of balance in life. And they might, in the end, end up, shouting, waving their arms and shouting their voice as well. And so it goes from one to another as we consume, almost like a virus. As we consume the upset of one person, and we display it out later ourselves, and then others who watched our display do the same. It's a feast, a gross and disgusting feast, a feast of offal, a feast of waste. And I try not to engage in that feast. One, by not consuming the waste, when others are spewing it out. Two, by trying not to be that type of person myself. Number 11, did I miss it? Oh yeah, I missed one. Yeah, between the social principle and the Feast of Offal, that's a new one that I forgot for a second, comes the principle of public speaking. When I'm talking to people, I want to, and if I bring someone else into the conversation who's not there, I want to speak of that person as though they are standing right there. I'll never talk about anyone. I'll always talk about, when I choose to talk about other people, I will do so in a way that will not be gossip, that will not be unflattering remarks that won't be, getting enjoyment at their expense. Just a mad talk no differently than if they were standing right there. And I think that this is going to make my conversations a lot more boring, and people aren't going to want to hang out with me so much, because that's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to gossip and talk about others, isn't it? Yet I don't want to do that anymore. And if it costs me some relationships, then so be it. That's a good thing, because I only want to hang out with people that would talk. That I don't want to hang out with people that want to talk about other people in those ways. So now I've already talked about the Feast of Offal. Let's go into Temperance, number 11. Temperance is the ability to control our consumption of all things, including our emotions. There are 3 sub-principles: suffering, simplicity, and apathy. We suffer when we deny ourselves what we want. A simple life is a temperate life, and apathy is the recognition of what we cannot control, what is outside of our control. Like if it suddenly started raining right now, or if my motorcycle breaks down, or whatever the case may be. There's really not much I can do about those things. No reason to get upset. I'll only be upset about the things that I can control. Like I should be upset if I'm not if I'm not, I ran into something in the road, a plastic cup or something. I should be upset at myself if I'm not performing good self-control. That is something within my control. Gosh darn it, do better, Kurt. That's a worthwhile thing to be upset about. Can't be not worth getting upset if someone else is not in control of their own selves. Now, next is agency and the great indifference. Human beings, indeed all life, are agents. There's something about agents, something about life that's comforting. Those trees right there. Something about their fact that they're alive. And the more sentient the agent, the more comforting it is. There's some comfort in a rattlesnake, but a lot more comfort in a kitten. And still greater comfort in a 10-year-old, 12-year-old dog that's been with us all our life, that's been a lifelong companion, and even more so with a life companion. A husband or a wife or children or whatever the case may be. You get the idea. Although sometimes the dog trumps everybody, who knows? You get the idea, right? And contrast that with the emptiness of nature, a phenomenon I call the great indifference. Oh, that reminds me, I've got 2 requests for videos. One to talk about the great indifference, and another one to talk about something. What was it? I can't remember. And I promised I'd talk about it this week at the bridge. Next is the best seat in the house. To not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be just okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing, while all the while seeking to live a better life and make things better. It's an interesting balancing act there. To be content and satisfied while also striving to do more, to do better. Not more, but better. That's a good distinction, I think, if I do say so myself. Next is the what is it? The Path of Wildness. I wrote the Path of Wildness as a consequence of so many young people who used to contact me, asking me what to do about their lives when they felt like their lives were stuck, and they didn't know how to get unstuck. Especially when I was living in Japan and people wanted to have an adventure like that. I don't get those comments so much anymore since coming back to America. And my formula is to simply think about it. Give yourself some time to think about the decision that you want to make, and collect as many facts as we can in that time. And when that time comes, make a decision. If we don't have enough facts at that time to make that decision, then give ourselves more time. But eventually, if you keep on giving yourself more time and then more time and then more time, you can consume your whole life, deliberating. Eventually there comes a point where it's just time to make a decision. And I recommend using our gut instinct to basically augment our deliberations. So whatever facts we decided upon, let's use our gut to make the final draw, the final decision. Just keep in mind that gut instinct may be wrong. There's no guarantee that was the right choice. But I'll tell you, just the fact that you or I made that choice, just the fact that we took that risk and did that is a winning move no matter what. Even if we lose everything. Even maybe if we lose our life in the bargain. Curious thing, that. Next is, Highway Patrol. Hi, Mr. Highway Patrol. Next is, the risk of avoiding risk. There's two levels of risk in life. The surface level risks, money, partner, spouse, and education, and a home and a job and stuff like that. And then the deep level risk of life of not living the dream that we had for ourselves, whatever that dream may be. And if you don't have a dream, that's okay too. There's a duck who no partner. So much for my social idea. The deeper risk is not living that dream. Most of us attend to the surface level risks, forget about the deeper stuff, or at least put it on the back burner so long that it may never cook, never become something. I've met a lot of people who have done that, who've never taken those chances, and they found themselves quite unsatisfied with success, having achieved a good education, a good career, a nice home, a lovely or handsome spouse, have a beautiful family. It's something is missing. And it's a curious thing, because the more you wait, the harder it is to get that. Yet the opposite is much easier to resolve. You can live that dream early and find yourself in your 50s. And say, gosh darn it. Well, no, I say, woo, I had a good run coming back from whatever. Tan, bruised, beaten, broke. That's if you choose that more active adventure. Maybe the consequences are somewhat different in another capacity. Maybe you choose to live some foreign life, coming back, with a bunch of stickers on your suitcase, speaking a foreign language and understanding strange cuisine. In any case, and you realize, gosh darn it, I was so focused on these adventures that I forgot about my education, my career. I'm getting a spouse. Well, with the exception of the education, the other two are actually not as hard to get. You may not rise to the top, but you can build a career. You can find somebody. You may not have time to have a family, or it may not be time to enjoy grandkids, but you can do those things, even at a pretty late stage in life. And look at that. Are you having your cake and eating it too? Kind of looks that way. Not that there aren't some prices to pay. Yeah, one of those prices is looking around you at your peers in your age group and measuring yourself against their relative success. Maybe they've got a home with a mortgage that's paid off, and a nice house full of furniture and toys and all kinds of domestic connections and social connections, and way along in their career with maybe a nice office or even a corner office. And you're still up at the front desk, or a little dingy cube, or maybe even living in an apartment. Hey, sounds like my life. I'm telling you though, from experience, that ain't so bad, except for the periodic regret sometimes of thinking, man, I could be better along, but then realizing that I'm already so far along. Coming back to that is it a good time to die? Being always ready to die. Having the art settled puts you in a pretty good place to die. But also because the longer you wait, I know that the art that I've done, I could not do at such late a date. Well, anyway, I could spend the next hour just mulling around in this one. Anyway, that's the risk of avoiding risk. If you have any mind And if you've made it this far in the video, then I guess you're interested. Here's my suggestion if you're young. Go to school as far as you can, at least a bachelor's degree. Really is worthwhile. Opportunities will be there for you. They'll open up. It will change you in ways that are very good. Go at least to a bachelor's degree, and then after that, that'll take you to your mid-20s if you start, at the conventional time. And then after that, give yourself the rest of the 20s. Try to get that degree without incurring too much or any debt. Go to community college first, work 2 jobs if necessary, and I'm only again saying that from experience. And then find a cheap university. It doesn't really matter. You don't need an Ivy League degree. It's just the fact of getting it. It's the fact of the experience. And try to avoid the online degrees. You want to be on the campus. You want to be in that circumstance. And if you have to get some debt, maybe if it takes you 2 years, 3 years longer to get that bachelor's degree, so be it. But try to get that degree and get out with as little debt as possible, because I don't want you to have to go to work right away. I want you to be able to whoa, look at this. Rug in the road. Woohoo! I want you to be able to have the great life adventure. Finish school with the sheepskin in your hand. Take that, put it somewhere safe, and then off you go. Give yourself the rest of the decade of your 20s for a great life adventure. Hey guys! Off you go. When you come back then in your 30s, start to attend to the other things, the spouse, the career, the home, and all that stuff. You got plenty of time. Plenty of time. Oh my gosh. Now, that's the risk of avoiding risk. Now let's get on to sin and damnation. There are 5 sins in my worldview. And they're all the same darn thing. Just believe in things that aren't true, or may not be true. The 5 sins are falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, and dogma. Watch out for that one faith. It looks like a virtue, and it's been treated as a virtue in society, in Western society, but it's not. It's a bona fide sin. There's no virtue in faith. Evidence of things unseen and the substance of things hoped for. What a bunch of nonsense. It's just an excuse to believe something that you want to believe when you don't have any good reason to believe it. There's absolutely nothing that you could not believe by virtue of faith. It's much better to believe things by virtue of reason and evidence. And any God that would ask us to believe in him by virtue of an instrument that can be applied to anything is inviting us to be suckers. It is either a trickster God, probably a trickster God, or not there at all, and just an invention of mankind. Next is the complete oblivion. When we die, there's nothing, like I said before, we're gonna be, swallowed up by the earth. And we'll never, ever, apparently, there's no reason to think, I don't know this for sure, but there's no evidence, I know from experience that I wasn't before I was. Why would I have, and I have no reason to think that I won't be nothing again afterwards. It seems quite clear. Anybody that says otherwise is doing so on shaky footing. Hey, there's hikers going up the mountain. Next is complete oblivion. Is the great life adventure, like I said. I think I talked about that enough. Oh, by the way, you can have little great life adventures too. I have one every 2 weeks when I go to the desert. The next one after that is the season of philosophy, a time to record our thoughts, write our book, sing our song, paint our picture, whatever the case may be. Just do it when the muse strikes, when the muse speaks. If you wait too long, the words won't be there, or they might not be there. There'll be something different. It won't be the same. Don't know just why that is. It's almost like it's the setting of a sunset. If you wait when the sunset is just right, if you wait to take the photo, you're gonna miss it. That's what it's like to heed the muse. And then almost done now. Actually, this is the last one. Arena and utility. Life is an arena for the execution of our lives, for the chance to develop our objectives and principles, and which dangle like tools on our side, ready for our use at a moment's notice. And this kind of exercise, this meditation, keeps them right there. Now, that's it for my Good Life meditation. Let's talk now about the challenge that I faced. My online world almost came to an end. A computer problem left me disconnected from the cloud where I have everything. This is really an astonishing thing. Idiot me. I put everything, all of my stuff, all my writing, all my account information, everything out in the cloud, so to speak, out in a computer network online, basically to make it invulnerable to computer failure. So if my computer failed, I wouldn't lose anything. But guess what else I put out there? I put all the passwords out there too, and all the user information. And when my computer did fail this week, I found I had no way to get in because the cloud, because I didn't have the passwords, because it was all out there. And I struggled for about 24 hours. I was really convinced that I'd lost everything. All my work, really my life's work, gone. And it was a funny thing how I went through moments of anger and frustration. Well, first I was panic, and then anger and anxiety and frustration, and I remember especially that panicked effort of trying to one option after another, failing, and trying to use the automated systems of recovery. Those failed too. I just didn't know enough about myself to be able to overcome the security. A curious thing that is. Talk about maybe overkill on the security. And I had done my due diligence. I had deliberately made a file with all of that information in it. I just made the mistake of keeping it in one place, in the cloud, and not knowing how to get into the cloud, with the exception of the fact that my browser knew how to get into the cloud, and the browser was gone. It's a big trailer. So, hey, peace, man. So, just about the time yesterday, about this time, about an hour before, I finally got to the point where I reconciled. I said, "Oh, it's over, it's gone," and it was almost like an interesting settling on things. It must be like when you get the prognosis of a disease, and I'm stepping over my bounds. I really don't know. I don't have experience with this. And then you finally reach a point of acceptance and simply say, "Well, I'm going to live with this. I'm going to find a way to make the best of that." And that's the point that I'd reached. I said, "Well," and again, I'm sorry to use such a difficult analogy as a disease when referencing just my computer stuff, but I think it helps with the point that I had to come to a point of recognizing this is just the way things are, and deciding to move forward. I wasn't going to just drown myself in despair, and that's what I did. And I had already started mapping out my new life, because I had also lost access to all of my YouTube stuff. It was going to be a whole new life, and I was starting to get kind of excited about it when BAM! I figured out a way to get in. And once I got in, then my whole world came back. And of course I made a nice backup and storing that locally on my on an external drive now. Whew, that was scary. And panicky and angry and at one point accepting. I'm going to have to remember that for the future, when the doctor finally does give me that prognosis. Maybe I can skip ahead to the acceptance part. A little bit of apathy there. Anyway, yeah, see, like a tool, right? Like I said, this is the forum, this is the arena, this life, for the execution of our objectives and principles. In this case, apathy, the ability to recognize what is and what is not within my control. Having a deadly disease is probably largely out of my control, unless it had some antecedent cause like smoking or drinking or something like that, and I don't do either, really. But you get the idea, right? I'm kind of being too talkative. And I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for joining me for this long Good Life meditation. I hope you all have a great day. Be safe, but not too safe. Take care.